Every year, Italian police officers raid warehouses, seize cheese, and arrest people. Not for making dangerous food, but for making cheese with the wrong name on the label. In 2015, a Philadelphia company called Castle Cheese Incorporated was caught selling containers labeled 100% Parmesan cheese that actually contained cheddar, Swiss cheese, and wood pulp. The company's owner was hit with federal criminal charges. The FDA estimates that as much as 20% of all grated Parmesan sold in the United States is not what it claims to be. And in Italy, there is a fully armed military police unit whose only job is to hunt down and arrest the people responsible. Parmigiano-Reggiano is not simply a variety of cheese. It is one of the most legally protected food products on the planet, governed simultaneously by European Union law, Italian criminal law, and one of the most aggressive food enforcement organizations in the world. To understand why Italy takes this so seriously, you first need to understand what the real product actually is. Authentic Parmigiano-Reggiano can only be produced in 5 specific provinces in northern Italy: Parma, Reggio Emilia, Modena, and designated parts of Bologna and Mantua. That geographic boundary is not a marketing preference, it is encoded in law. No cheese made outside those borders can legally carry the name, regardless of how it is made or how closely it resembles the original. This protection makes Parmigiano-Reggiano one of the most tightly controlled food names in recorded history. The legal protection behind Parmigiano-Reggiano is rooted in EU Regulation 1151 of 2012, the framework governing protected designation of origin foods across all of Europe. Under this regulation, using the name Parmigiano-Reggiano to describe any cheese made outside the authorized region is a criminal violation under Italian law. Not just a labeling infraction, not a fine, but a prosecutable offense. The protection covers every dimension of production: the breed of cattle, the feed the cows are given, the temperature of the milk at the time of processing, the specific wooden tools used to stir the curds, and the minimum aging period of 12 months. It also prohibits the use of any preservatives, additives, or foreign ingredients of any kind. No other cheese in the world is governed by rules this precise and enforced with this level of legal authority. It took nearly a century of political work to build this framework, and Italy has no intention of allowing it to be eroded. The production requirements for authentic Parmigiano-Reggiano are staggeringly specific. The cows supplying the milk must eat only locally grown grass and hay, no silage, no fermented feed, nothing that could alter the chemistry of the milk. Fresh milk must arrive at the authorized dairy within 2 hours of milking. The curds must be broken by hand using a tool called a spino, a traditional wire whisk used for centuries in this exact process. Each finished wheel must weigh between 33 and 45 kilograms. The cheese must then age for a minimum of 12 months, with superior grades aged 24 months or longer. And before a single wheel can leave the dairy, it must be examined and certified by an independent inspector from the official governing body, the Consorzio del Formaggio Parmigiano-Reggiano. Any wheel that fails inspection does not get a second chance. Its rind is shaved clean, the name is removed, and it is sold as generic cheese with no protected status. These standards exist not to be difficult, but to guarantee that every wheel carrying the name is worth defending. The Consorzio del Formaggio Parmigiano-Reggiano was founded in 1934. It employs more than 300 professional inspectors who examine, test, and certify every single wheel produced. Each approved wheel receives 2 forms of permanent identification: a firebrand imprinting the words Parmigiano-Reggiano in a repeating dotted pattern across the entire surface of the rind, and a unique numerical code that can trace that wheel back to the specific dairy, the specific batch, and the exact production date. During peak production years, approximately 3.9 million wheels are certified annually. At an average weight of roughly 40 kilograms and a wholesale value that can reach several hundred euros per wheel, that represents an industry worth more than 2 billion euros per year. That number also tells you exactly how much money is available to thieves willing to forge the system. The Consorzio understands this perfectly, which is why they have never treated their inspection process as administrative formality, but as the first line of defense in an ongoing war. So if every wheel is branded, numbered, and physically inspected, how does the fraud actually happen? The answer begins inside Italy itself, and it is more organized than most people expect. In 2008, Italian authorities dismantled one of the most audacious food fraud operations ever recorded. A criminal network in northern Italy had recruited skilled blacksmiths in the town of Ferrara to forge exact replicas of the consorzio's official branding tools, the precise instruments used to press those identifying dotted marks into the rind of every authentic wheel. These counterfeit branding machines were used to stamp fake wheels produced entirely outside the authorized production zone, making them appear visually identical to genuine certified cheese. 6 people were arrested in that operation, including 2 blacksmiths and several distributors who had been moving the product into legitimate supply chains. The operation had been running for years before authorities closed in. It demonstrated that the value of the Parmigiano-Reggiano name was significant enough to motivate organized criminal investment in sophisticated forgery. The second form of fraud is on a far larger scale, and it has been unfolding for decades inside the United States. In 2013, the FDA launched an investigation into Castle Cheese Incorporated, a Philadelphia-based company that had been supplying grated cheese to retailers and food service businesses for years. What investigators found when they analyzed the contents of containers labeled 100% Parmesan cheese was extraordinary. The products contained a mixture of cheddar, Swiss cheese, and substantial amounts of cellulose, a filler material derived from wood pulp that is used industrially as an anti-caking agent. The owner of Castle Cheese, Michelle Murder, was charged with federal criminal violations. She pleaded guilty in 2015. The case made international headlines and triggered a wave of consumer testing across the entire category. The FDA's own rules technically permit up to 4% cellulose in grated cheese as an anti-caking agent, but investigators found products pushing well beyond that threshold. The Castle Cheese case was not an anomaly. It was a window into an industry that had been operating without serious consequences for years. Before we get to Italy's police operation, if this story is as surprising to you as it was to us, take 5 seconds right now and hit the like button. It genuinely helps this channel grow and reach more people who love the real history of food. And if you want to see more stories like this one, subscribe and hit the notification bell. We post new episodes every week. Now back to the story, because this is where it gets serious. The Castle Cheese case was only the beginning of what investigators uncovered. In the same year the case was prosecuted, a Bloomberg investigation independently tested a range of store-brand grated Parmesan products from major American retailers. Multiple products that were labeled 100% Parmesan were found to contain between 4 and 9% cellulose, significantly above any reasonable anti-caking threshold. Cheese industry analyst Ed Schumann estimated publicly that as many as 20% of all grated Parmesan products sold in the United States are misbranded in some way. That figure represents hundreds of millions of containers per year. At the same time, the global market for what Italian authorities call Italian-sounding products, food designed to look, sound, and feel Italian without actually being Italian, is estimated at over 100 billion euros annually. That is more than twice the total value of genuine Italian food exports. Parmigiano-Reggiano alone loses an estimated 2 billion euros every year to imitation and counterfeit products. When you understand those numbers, the existence of an armed police unit dedicated entirely to this problem begins to make a great deal of sense. This is the part of the story that most people outside Italy have never heard. Italy does not treat food fraud as a minor regulatory matter. It treats it as organized crime. To enforce its food protection laws, the Italian government maintains a dedicated branch of its military police force called the Carabinieri per la Tutela Agroalimentare, which translates as the Carabinieri for the protection of agri-food products. These are not health inspectors with clipboards. They are fully armed Carabinieri officers operating under the Italian Ministry of Defense. They have the power to investigate, surveil, detain, and arrest. Their operational mandate is specifically to pursue counterfeiting, fraud, and unauthorized use of protected food product names. They coordinate with regional law enforcement across Italy and work internationally through Europol and Interpol. Their existence reflects a fundamental principle of Italian law, that defrauding consumers about the origin and identity of protected food products is not a paperwork violation, it is a crime against the national heritage. The operational arm most frequently deployed on food fraud cases is the NAS, Nucleo Anti-Sofisticazione e Sanità, the Carabinieri unit specifically trained in food safety and agri-food crime. NAS has regional units across Italy and conducts thousands of inspections and raids every year. Their investigations can run for months before a single arrest is made, the same methodical, evidence-building approach used in organized crime cases. A coordinated NAS operation can involve dozens of officers simultaneously hitting multiple locations, processing facilities, cold storage warehouses, distribution networks, and private residences. In 2023, a joint Italian-Spanish NAS-led operation arrested 11 people running a food fraud network that had produced more than 260,000 liters of counterfeit product. In separate operations, NAS teams have seized hundreds of thousands of food items in single raids. Their reach extends across Italy and outward into international supply chains. The message these operations are designed to send is deliberate. The value of Parmigiano-Reggiano to Italy is worth more than the cost of enforcement, and the Carabinieri are prepared to make that case in a courtroom. Inside the European Union, the word Parmigiano-Reggiano is fully protected. No producer anywhere in the EU can legally use the name without authorization from the Consorzio. But outside the EU, particularly in the United States, the situation is dramatically different. American regulators have classified the word Parmesan as a generic term, meaning that any manufacturer anywhere in the country can legally label their product Parmesan regardless of where it was made, how it was aged, or what it actually contains, as long as it is technically a cheese product. Italy and the Consorzio have spent decades lobbying American lawmakers and trade regulators to change this classification. So far, the effort has produced no binding outcome. This legal gap is the single most powerful tool available to counterfeit cheese producers because it means that in the United States, the largest consumer market in the world, selling imitation Parmesan is entirely legal. The only laws being broken are the ones that govern content accuracy on labels, and enforcement in that area has historically been inconsistent. This is the environment in which the 20% figure was produced, and it is the environment that the Consorzio is now fighting aggressively to change. The Consorzio del Formaggio Parmigiano-Reggiano has not waited passively for governments to resolve this. Over the past 2 decades, the organization has launched legal challenges in dozens of countries, winning court rulings in Germany, France, the United Kingdom, Canada, and elsewhere that restrict the use of names that too closely imitate Parmigiano-Reggiano. In 2022, the Consorzio formally announced an initiative targeting the estimated €2 billion lost annually to counterfeit and imitation products worldwide, deploying legal teams across multiple continents simultaneously. They have partnered with Europol on joint investigations and supported criminal prosecutions in multiple jurisdictions. The Consorzio's strategy is not reactive. It is a coordinated international enforcement campaign run with the precision of a legal firm and the resources of a €2 billion industry. Every ruling they win in a foreign court establishes a precedent that makes the next case easier to bring. The organization, that began in 1934 as a domestic cheese quality consortium, has evolved into one of the most sophisticated food protection operations in the world. One of the most striking developments in this story involves a technology solution that sounds more like it belongs in the pharmaceutical industry than a cheese warehouse. Beginning in 2022, the Consorzio partnered with a technology company called P-Chip Corporation to embed a microscopic crypto-anchor microchip, smaller than a grain of sand, directly into the casein label applied to every single wheel of authentic Parmigiano-Reggiano. Each chip is paired with a blockchain digital record, creating a permanent and unforgeable digital twin for every physical wheel produced. The chip cannot be copied, removed, or replicated. Consumers, distributors, and regulators can scan the chip at any point in the supply chain and instantly verify the wheel's complete history: the certified dairy, the production batch, the inspection result, and the aging record. This system transforms every wheel of Parmigiano-Reggiano from a product that can be imitated into a product that can be verified anywhere in the world in real time. When a century-old cheese consortium is deploying blockchain authentication technology, it tells you everything you need to know about how serious this problem has become. So why does Italy send police to arrest fake Parmesan cheese makers? Because what appears on the surface to be a dispute about cheese labels is actually something far more significant. It is a battle over €2 billion in annual revenue, over centuries of agricultural heritage, and over the fundamental right of a consumer to know what they are actually eating. The Carabinieri per la Tutela Agroalimentare and the NAS exist because Italy made a deliberate decision that food fraud is not a minor regulatory inconvenience. It is organized crime, and it deserves the same response. When officers walk into a warehouse and arrest someone for branding a fake wheel of cheese, they are enforcing something that goes much deeper than a label. They are defending a name that took 1,000 years to earn, a set of production standards that no shortcut can replicate, and an industry that supports tens of thousands of Italian farmers, cheesemakers, and aging rooms that have been operating the same way since the Middle Ages. The cheese is worth protecting, and Italy has made very clear that it will. The global fake cheese industry is not going away overnight. As long as the word Parmesan remains legally unprotected in major markets like the United States, imitation products will continue to fill supermarket shelves and restaurant kitchens. But Italy is not standing still. With blockchain-authenticated microchips on every wheel, aggressive international legal campaigns, and an armed police force that has made food fraud a criminal priority, the producers of genuine Parmigiano-Reggiano are fighting harder than at any point in the cheese's long history. The next time you pick up a container of grated Parmesan, look at the label carefully. If it says Parmigiano-Reggiano and you can see that embossed, dotted, rind pattern through the packaging, there is a police officer, a consorzio inspector, and nearly 900 years of Italian tradition behind that name. If it simply says Parmesan with no further identification, now you know what that actually means. If this story opened your eyes, hit the like button right now. It makes a genuine difference to this channel. Subscribe so you never miss the next episode, and drop a comment below. Did you know any of this was happening? Have you ever actually checked the label on your Parmesan? We read every comment. Let us know. We will see you in the next one.